Hi, this is Sean D'Souza, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation Podcast. This podcast isn't some magic trick about how to work less. Instead, it's about how to really enjoy the work that you do and to enjoy your vacation time. Hi, it's Sean D'Souza, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation. Ever since my nieces, Marcia and Kara, were little, we have taken them out to dinner almost every month. And after dinner, we head to the mall where they buy themselves an ice cream. The first thing that Kara does when she gets her ice cream is to offer me a bite. Take a little bite, she'll say, take just a little bite. But she always offers me a little bite. Now, there's a very interesting lesson there. The Kara is sharing what is rightfully hers to keep. She doesn't have to give me a chunk of her ice cream, no matter how small it is. And like Kara, our business is our ice cream. We don't need to share our secrets with someone else, do we? Yet, the smaller your company, the bigger the upside in sharing the secrets and the knowledge that you've gained over the years. Big companies can thrive on muscle power alone. They can sell solely to their customers. A small business, on the other hand, needs to learn to share, to teach the competition what they already know. I know, this strategy sounds really odd. However, there are some very solid reasons why we should wade right into the unlikely world of teaching your competition. Let's find out why, and let's cover the 3 points, those 3 main points as always. So what are the 3 main points that we're covering? The first thing is that clients, they come and go, but competition remains longer. The second is that you're always ahead of the competition, even when you seemingly tell them everything that you know. And finally, why selling your information to competition makes the market more viable. Let's start with the first one, which is clients come and go, the competition remains longer. Imagine you dominated 90% of your market. Would you be happy? About 20 years ago, I heard of a lumber company. It was hugely successful. So successful, in fact, that the competition was reduced to just 10% of the share of the market. And this lumber company gobbled up the rest, the whole marketplace, except for that tiny 10%. Now, ideally, they should have rested on their laurels. A 90% stake signifies a very healthy bottom line and lots of champagne, but they were restless. And their restlessness arose from a very unusual plight. Being a lumber-based company, they could only operate profitably in a certain geographical area. If they went outside that area, they would run into transportation costs. They would run into additional taxes. So it made it very unprofitable to go outside those boundaries. In short, they were trapped. They could never expand or grow their business. What would you do in such a situation? Marketer Jay Abraham came up with a solution. He suggested that the lumber company sell their secrets. As you can imagine, such a suggestion meets with instant pushback. A lot of silence. The lumber company was the leader. They were the market leaders because they had a system that enabled them to treat the trees. Now, I don't remember the story very well, but it went a bit like this. If they overdid the treatment, the lumber would be overcooked. If they were too cautious, the wood would be very raw. And so, in both conditions, that tree or those trees that they cut down would be unfit for any kind of usage, and therefore companies would lose hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of precious lumber every year. But this company wasn't doing that. They had perfected that system. They had perfected that system of treating the lumber just right. And now the company was being asked to sell its secrets. Imagine yourself in that position. Someone is telling you to sell your secrets. Secrets that you have taken so long to figure out, all of those mistakes, all of those late nights, all of that frustration, and now you figured it out and someone is saying, sell it or give it away. The first instinct is to act like some crazy grandmother who's defending her precious recipes. You'd refuse to give away your secrets. What if the competition learned all of your methods? What if they put you out of business? Why should you sell something that has taken you so long and so much pain to acquire? Giving away or selling your secrets to the competition seems like the most dim-witted thing to do. Selling to competition might seem foolish, but the competition is an exceedingly powerful source of revenue and longevity. My friend Julia used to own several bed stores, and over the years she learned how to run the stores very effectively. So effective was she that they'd make 200 to 300% higher than all the other bed stores, and this was a franchise, so they were selling the same stuff, but she was still making 200% or 300% more than the other stores in the franchise. If you look at any bed store, what you realize is that the goods aren't terribly unique. If you were selling beds, then you have brands like Sealy or Sleepyhead, and you're likely to find the same beds, the same mattresses in practically every bed store. Yet her profits were higher than the other stores, but there is a limit to how much stock can be held in a store. So unless Julia were to lease a new space, get the franchise rights, hire new staff, there seemed to be no way to increase her profits with her clients. So Julia was a lot like the lumber company. She could go up to a certain point, she could sell more beds, but that was the limit. What she could do is sell her secrets to competition. And not necessarily the competition just around her, but competition in the state, competition in the country, competition worldwide. People who are selling beds want to know how to sell beds like Julia. And if she did that, then what these people need is a constant stream. Look, when you're selling a bed to a customer, they only buy the bed once. And then, I don't know, they'll come back after 8 years or 10 years to buy the second bed. But when you're selling to competition, they need a constant stream of information. They need a constant stream of what happens if this goes wrong, I did this, how do I fix that? So they need that constant stream, they need that constant consulting, they need that constant products. Suddenly you're looking at a very good business model. And this is what the lumber company did as well. They realized that they were stuck. They realized that 90% is a really good figure to have, but they realized that they couldn't go any further. So what they did was they started having seminars. At first, the seminars were very modestly priced at $5,000 per head. Then in barely a year or so, those very same seminars shot up to $25,000 per person. Would you find this very expensive, this seminar at $25,000 per person? Lumber companies, they lose hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. Badly treated wood, it's taken as a cost of doing business. However, once this lumber company showed them their methods, the other lumber companies, they were in this position to make a small fortune by not consigning that wood to waste. So they were saving hundreds of thousands of dollars just by getting this system right, this system that this lumber company had perfected. And so now for them to pay $25,000, that's a pittance. They're saving hundreds of thousands. You know what I'm saying, right? The story runs in a very predictable fashion. Lumber companies around the world, they wanted to pay for the information so that they could reduce their waste to the bare minimum. The competition, that's the other lumber companies, they're going to stick around as long as they found that information profitable. So it sounds like, wait a second, we just gave them all the information at that seminar. But that's not really how it works. Essentially, companies that find information from some other source that's reliable will find or need more information over the years, and so they will keep coming back. Every bookstore on the planet is an example of this concept of selling to competition. When you're confronted with the fact that you need to sell your secrets, the idea might seem very unpalatable. But look at the bookstore. Look at the bookstores that you've seen in your city. Those videos, those books, those magazines, they're all filled with secrets. They're all filled with secrets that are being given away. Maybe your grandma kept all her secrets, all her recipe secrets, but she's only highly respected in her own family. Her only clients are her immediate family, but the clients of the books, the videos, the magazines, that's the entire population of the world, technically. The entire population of people who want that information. And you know as well as I do how the systems start chugging along once you buy a book. You rarely buy a book and then never buy another one again. When a business owner gives you their secrets and you get value from that information, you want to go back for more. However, as we've experienced in the past, we rarely restrict ourselves to just books. We buy into so much more. The juiciest bit of all is the longevity of the competition. Customers tend to come and go. By this I mean that they buy something and then they go away, and then they may not buy for a week or a month or 10 years or whatever. Whether you're selling a bed, lumber, or consulting, a customer will show up, take what they need, and then they will leave. And truly speaking, so will a competitor. However, in many cases, the competition will come back to get even more information. They'll consult with you, they'll buy your courses, they'll attend your workshops. They'll want to get as much as possible from you. And if you're already ahead of the competition, they will keep coming back. No matter whether you have a brick and mortar business or something online, the principle remains exactly the same. Customers come, they purchase something, they go. Competition sticks around a lot longer. When we started this case study, it seemed like the lumber company was trapped. Yet it's that very trap that transformed their business. Instead of dealing solely with clients, they moved to the competition. They operated in a completely different environment, a completely different universe. And all of this sounds really nice, but there is this nagging feeling, there is this red flag that seems to pop up, doesn't it? What if the competition takes all your stuff and makes it all their own? Isn't it possible for them to muscle into your market? These are your secrets. What if they start using them against you? And this takes us to the second section, why you're always ahead of your competition, even when you're seemingly teaching them everything that you know. Let's say you started walking down the road 6 months ago. Somewhere along the way, you learned a lot about the road, the pit stops, the method of walking, the rehydration methods, all of that stuff. You learned all that stuff. And now you're teaching your competition who's coming down that very same road. If both of you were to keep walking, you'd still be many months ahead of the competition. Even though they bought all your videos, read all your books, followed your plan in extreme detail, they're still going to be many months behind. Even if you were to give away all your stuff, they would still be behind. And you, on the other hand, are moving faster ahead. But let's say you're still feeling paranoid. You're still feeling that the competition is going to take over all your secrets. There are two things that you need to consider. Two things that will keep you ahead. So the first thing is that time marches on. Let's say you figured out how to make social media ads, and you figured out how to get a great return on your investment. From the moment you teach your competition to the point where they start implementing, there is this change happening. Time is always ticking away. Things change all the time. What worked for Facebook yesterday may not be working today. It'll be totally different. And this would apply to just about any business. Every so-called success case study is only a record of the past. So whatever you teach is likely to have changed anywhere from a tiny fraction to quite a lot. Even if you're teaching in an area that's not changing every day, let's say watercolors for instance, there's still some change in the tools and the equipment. There's always going to be this little change. Something may change in your technique, in your material, in the sequence that you use. Something is going to change all the time, and often without your own knowledge. It's not like it's overt. It's change because you're always moving, and the competition cannot keep up. So that was the first point, but the second point is one of mistakes. Whether it's dealing with a business or dealing with a map, we've all got lost at some point. Why is this so? A map is a map is a map, right? We're not supposed to get lost when we're given precise instructions. However, human error and often human creativity, that's what comes into play, especially that human creativity. Even when you're following a map with great precision, there is always that possibility that you'll go off course. There's always that possibility that you will have your own interpretation. And as a result, you go, wow, we are lost. And your competition is going to have to work out these mistakes and to fix them as well. It's easy to believe that selling to competition is risky. What if the competition takes away your ideas? What if they use it as their own? But the reality is different. No matter how generous and detailed you are, the competition is still going to be creative. They're still going to take that map and interpret it in their own way. And this is why you will always be ahead of the competition, because that's exactly what you did. You took a map that someone else gave you, you used it your own way, you got lost, you found your way back, and now you are where you are. And your competition is going to do exactly the same thing. Back in 2006 to 2008, we had Protégé sessions. These were year-long sessions. And we taught clients a whole bunch of stuff. They were with us for a whole year. I was mentoring them. I was giving them all the information that I had. Now, before anybody does training with us, we always put a barrier, and that is you have to read the brain audit. But there are other barriers. And one of the barriers are filling in a form, doing a call with me, doing that kind of stuff. It depends on the course itself. But in this case, they had to also fill in the form. And in that questionnaire, they were asked why they were doing this course, this year-long thing. Why were they spending so much money? And you've probably guessed the response already, haven't you? They didn't want to reinvent the wheel. Many of them were already consultants. Many of them wanted to do exactly what we were doing. And that's why they bought into the course. Now, they wanted to learn skills like everybody does, but they also want to know what you're doing, which is different. Essentially, they were competition, and I had no problem with that. The only reason why you should be afraid of competition is if you stay stagnant. Because if you stay stagnant, then the competition will catch up. They will show up, they will overtake you, and then you're likely to be somewhere in their dust. But unless you're very lazy, you're not going to be stagnant. We learn to implement, we invent, we reinvent. We are always moving ahead. We're always maintaining that lead. Plus, so much of what we do depends on our strategy. And you know how strategy changes. It changes all the time. We're always chopping and changing. We're always tweaking things. And the competition is never going to be able to keep up with it. Even if you give them a ready stream, you give them a feed every minute of the day, they're still never going to keep up with you. They will take what is useful to them and they will grow. And that's their purpose. Their purpose is to learn what you know and then to implement it. But they will be creative. They will change things. They will slow down. They will stop. There will be things that will divert their attention. Restaurants, they seem the same, but you can't compare one restaurant with another. You can't compare one author with another. Comparison itself is super weird. It's a super odd activity to contemplate. Anyway, if the competition really wanted to copy your work, there are ways and means of doing so. No one is saying that you shouldn't sell to clients, but you should sell to competition as well. Because it earns your revenue, it builds your authority. And no matter how much you give away, how much you sell, there is still an astounding amount of information that remains to be explained. If anything, selling the system is a far superior way to grow a business, because it draws in both customers and competition on a much bigger scale. But there's a third reason why you should sell to competition, and it's called expanding the market. Most of us think of competition as a bad thing, but it's quite the opposite. It makes the market more viable. Let's find out how in the third section. In 2014, Tesla Motors did something very revolutionary. They gave away their patents to their electric car. What are we to make of news like that? Is it just Tesla being generous, or does it have an ulterior motive? We know electric cars are a tiny fragment of the market. Despite being superior in almost every way to the petrol-driven car, they're still to make big inroads. But as an article on Forbes magazine pointed out, Tesla's real competition is not another company. In fact, it's those fuddy-duddy petrol engines that are being manufactured in millions around the globe every single day. When Tesla gives away the patents, the other companies don't have to figure things out. And more importantly, there isn't this patent lawsuit that slows down the whole industry. Take the example of James Park. James Park is the co-founder and the CEO of Fitbit. And you probably know Fitbit. It's a wireless fitness tracker. Now, when Fitbit entered the market, they had bigger, gruntier competition like Nike and Jawbone. And they all had the potential to crush an upstart like Fitbit. But here's what Park says. You need some critical mass to legitimize what you're doing. And some of the early advice he got was that if no one is competing in your space, there's a very good chance that the market you're going into is too small. Any reasonably good idea has 10,000 people working on it right now. You may not even know they exist because they're as small as you. But what's all this got to do with you? After all, Fitbit didn't give away or sell its information, did it? We grew up in a us versus them environment, which means that many, if not most of us, believe that competition isn't a good thing. We also believe that too much competition causes saturation in the marketplace. Now, both of these beliefs have some truth in them, but it really depends on your point of view. When you teach the competition to do something that you already know, you're not only earning an income, but you're doing your own bit to broaden that market. Take the example of my friend and super graphic designer John McQuaid. John was literally the first one on the planet to use desktop publishing software. And John ran into some of the earliest computers back in the 80s. He had a job as an art director of a magazine called Reno, and he was given a little piece of software by Jeremy Jake. Now, Jake was the chief engineer of a tiny Seattle startup called All This. And he was writing a software called PageMaker. Today, we use the fancy InDesign software for desktop publishing, but the heart of Adobe desktop publishing goes all the way back to PageMaker. But who was using PageMaker? Literally, there was no one on the planet except the engineers and John. So John decides, this is really cool. We can do so much stuff with PageMaker, and he decides to start up Before and After magazine, which is a design magazine. And he shows people how to use PageMaker, how to create this amazing graphic design. You could safely say that John McQuaid single-handedly expanded the market and he created competition. Today, there are tens of thousands of books and videos and courses on InDesign. And telling people how to use InDesign, creating that competition, it didn't make it worse for John McQuaid. He made a very good living. He still does, and he has a huge fan following at Before and After. The expansion of the market has been very good for almost everyone. However, this advice of expanding the market doesn't just apply when you're starting up. It also applies when you're entering a reasonably mature marketplace. This brings us to a very crucial point. Your competition is going to sell to your competition. So if you decide to keep your secrets all to yourself, that's your prerogative. However, your competition isn't exactly going to keep mum. If you have some great knowledge in selling real estate and you decide not to tell or sell, then another real estate agent will write a book, they'll do seminars, they'll give their version anyway. If you're outstanding at creating apps, so are 1,000 others who will happily put their information out for sale. The market will exist with or without you, with or without me. So we might as well get our skin in the game because there isn't really much of a downside. And there is a lot of upside. When you first start thinking about giving away your secrets to sell these secrets to the competition, it doesn't seem like a good idea at all. But then you realize it's a very profitable one. Your customers, they are very important. It's very important to sell to your customers, but so is the competition. You go out there, you find the competition, and they're good for business. And that's why you need to sell to competition. So what did we cover in this episode? Let's do a quick summary, shall we? The first thing that we learned was that clients come and go, that competition remains longer. And we know this, that clients will always come and go. But competition, they want to keep up with you. So if you're at level 1, they want to be with you at level 1. If you're at level 2, they want to be with you at level 2. We found this, and we have found this consistently for all our programs, all our workshops, that at least a small segment of the audience is competition-based. And you would think, well, don't give away all your secrets. It's not true. You give away your secrets. They're still going to have to keep up with you. And as long as you're moving ahead, you don't have any problem. And that's also part of the second bit in this episode. That is, you're always ahead of the competition. And this is not just physically ahead of the competition, but also in terms of strategy, because you can give away all your secrets. So for instance, we give away the brain audit freely. How much is it sold for? $9.99 on Amazon. If you look at the masterclass, we've given away all those secrets, what we do. The point is that some of it is sold and some of it is given away, and you think, well, they're going to catch up. No, everything starts to change along the way. And you're not doing it so that everything changes and it's, hey, look, we're ahead. No, it's not like that. They're still finding great value for it. That's why they keep coming back. And yet what's happening is that fear, that irrational fear that you have that they will copy everything and put you out of business, that is not going to happen. That's not going to happen because even as you put out the book becomes dated. As you put out the information, that is dated. You're always going to be ahead. It's like you've started on this journey 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. Even if your stuff is brand new, it doesn't matter. It's impossible for the competition to keep up with you exactly in step. So you never have to worry about it. And most of all, you don't have to be like that grandmother who holds on to a recipe or who gives that recipe and then leaves out an important ingredient. No. That's not what you're supposed to do. Give away your stuff. Give away, sell it. Give it in its entirety. And you will find that makes the competition even want to work harder with you, more with you, and pay you for it. It's a game that you can't lose. The third thing that we covered was why selling to your competition makes the market more viable. Now, very few of us are working in a marketplace where there's no competition. But even so, you think, oh, the market is saturated. It's never saturated. There's always a different angle to the same thing. When I started drawing cartoons, there were already hundreds or thousands of cartoonists. But let's say that cartoonists are not so many. Let's say that we went into marketing. Well, marketing has an even bigger kind of competition level. There are probably tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people who are doing marketing across the planet. And we are now in 2017. And of course, you have even more people that want to get into marketing, that want to sell stuff online. And it doesn't really make a difference. Well, it makes a difference, but you have to position yourself, and that's a whole different concept. but there is no such thing as a saturated market. If there were a saturated market, then you would never have new products in the same area. But even as you look at a product just like tea, which has existed for hundreds of years, some new brand will come out. Some new flavor will come out. So there is always space in the market. There is no such thing as a saturated market. You just have to market yourself or your product or your service in a way that appeals to customers. And what that does is just broaden the market. You get your own little space, your clients come to that little space, your competition comes to that little space. And that's how it works. And that brings us to the end of this podcast. So what's the one thing that you can do today? The one thing that you can do today is to give away one of your secrets. When I started out with the brain audit, that's not what I was doing. I was not giving away any secrets. So I was withholding a lot of stuff in the sense that the brain audit has 7 red bags, 7 things that you have to do. And I'd go to a presentation, I'd speak for 45 minutes, and I'd only give them 3 bags. I'd tell them there were 7 bags, but I would only give them 3 bags. And invariably, people would ask, what are the 7 bags? And I always felt like I was giving away everything. But what struck me was that those very same people would then end up buying this PDF, which was amazing back then. We're talking about the year 2000. And then we did workshops. And again, I was afraid, hey, I'm giving away all this stuff. But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that at all. What happens is when you stand up before an audience and you give away your secrets, people want documentation. They want to buy your book. They want to buy your course. They want to go into more detail. And the brain audit itself has sold over $500,000, maybe more. I keep saying $500,000, but we've been moving on and it has continued to sell. And that's been the learning that I had to take home as well. And luckily, I got to take home some of the revenue that came from it as well while getting that learning. And I hope that that's what you'll do as well, which is to give away some of that secrets. And people say, how much do I give away and what do I keep? And the early formula for me was that you give away the ideas and you sell the system. So for instance, you can give away some of the brain audit bags 1, 2, 3, and then you sell the entire system, which is the course or the workshop or the video series or whatever you want to sell. So give the ideas, sell the system, and you should be fine. So what's happening in Psychotactics land? If you've been following this podcast, you know that I've been having this battle with my website, the new Psychotactics website, since July 2015. So it's been a project that has just gone into stall mode. And when we got back from our month-long vacation, the last thing I wanted to do was go to work, let alone work on the website, which has some reasonably complicated back-end software that I had to get a hold of. The good news is that working at it every day, page by page, and quite a bit of it has got done. I assume 30% of it is already done. Maybe it's 50%, maybe it's less, I don't know. But the website's looking really good. And when are you going to get to see it? I can't say yet, but I don't want to just launch the website. I want it to be a bit of an event. So maybe by the end of this year, maybe early next year, we'll see. But I'm still working at it 1 page at a time and it's looking really good. It's a funny website. It's got the second best 404 page on the planet. What is a 404 page? It's the page where you land on when something goes wrong. So this is a really funny 404 page and you'll see it. I've also been putting together the outline of how to start up a business. And the name of that book is Think Like a GPS. And that's going to be out in November, I think November 25th, but it's going on sale on 18th of October. So I've got to finish a lot of this website stuff before then. And yeah, that's where we are with Psychotactics. And you're probably aware that on 18th of September, we have the article writing course. That's the home study version, and we have only 35 copies. Now, it's the same for the pre-sale course, which we're selling later, and also for the uniqueness course. And so I got this question from Miklos Mayer, and his question went like this. He said, there's one thing I don't understand. Many of these products, they have audio, they have PDF, and they don't require any personal involvement from you. So why do you limit the numbers to just 25 or 35? And then he added a little bit and he says, I'm really curious about this. And there are two reasons for this. And the first reason is scarcity. Now, scarcity by itself doesn't exist. You have to create scarcity. When there is scarcity, then people pay attention because it becomes a problem and they pay attention. And so scarcity is the first reason. But the second reason is very odd, at least to most people. And that is that we have understood our concept of enough. So we know what it means to earn enough for a very good life. And if we just sell 25 copies of this product and 25 of that and 35 of that, we generate more than enough to have a very good life where we don't have to worry about money. We can travel in style. We can live in style. A lot of people want to earn more. They want to double their income, double their clients, double everything. It makes no sense to us at all. It doesn't have to make sense to everybody. Some people want to build empires. They want to hire more staff. They want to have teams and stuff. And we don't. Our goal from the very start was to have control over our lives. And this means that we have enough time to spend with our nieces and to paint and to cook and to still generate enough of an income and to take 3 months off every year. And I don't know if you could write a script like that, but that's the script that we have written, the script that several of our clients have started to write as well and are following. And it's something that you can do as well. The thing is that you have to start your journey somewhere, and that somewhere would be the Brain Audit if you haven't read the Brain Audit. The second place, and this is what I would strongly recommend, because it's very hard to go out there by yourself and do all that stuff, and there's so much distraction. And that's why I'd recommend 5000 BC. So join 5000 BC, and you have to wait 21 days. But the point is that while you're waiting, we send you a few goodies. And so that gets you started before you join 5000 BC itself. Now, you're going to enjoy your stay in 5000 BC, but you have to do things every single day. And we have a Taking Action forum. We have people who engage. It's a completely different place. We'll see you in 5000 BC. This is me, Sean D'Souza, saying bye for now. Bye-bye.